Lisa and I play in a darts league on Monday nights, and something happened a couple of weeks ago that got me thinking. Yes, you heard me correctly. We play in a dart league, and it's awesome. I was playing in a match against a guy named Joe, and I was wearing this shirt, which made him ask, "What do you do for a living?" I told him what Lisa and I do, but I didn't mention the YouTube part because he was a few years older than me and I didn't feel like explaining to him how money is made on YouTube and all that stuff. I just told him what I tell every stranger that I meet. My wife and I have a website where we sell aquarium supplies and plants. Oh my God, come on, seriously? No, you're a sweet guy and you're really cute, but I've got work I have to do, fat boy. Anyway, we had a good match and he ended up beating me on a 101 checkout. And if you play darts, you know how impressive that is. But afterwards, we started talking about the fish tank that he set up just a couple of months ago. He and his wife had set up a 20-gallon aquarium and they were waiting to put fish in it because they couldn't get their pH right. So I said, "Oh, really? What's wrong with it?" He said, "Well, we couldn't get the pH right, so we went to the pet store that we bought all the stuff from and we gave them a sample of our water. They tested it and they said, 'Here, take these drops home and put these in your aquarium.' So they did. They put a few drops in there like the instructions said, and it didn't do anything. So they put a few more drops in there and that still didn't do anything. And he said he got so frustrated that he was almost like, 'You know what, to hell with it. I'm just going to put fish in it anyway.' And my response to him was, 'Well, that's good. You should.' And he was like, "Wait, I thought the pH had to be perfect before you put fish in it." And I said, "Well, that could be true, but here's the thing. What fish do you plan on putting in it?" And he said, "We don't even really know that yet." So my response was, "Well, then what are you setting the pH up to be? You don't even know what it is that it needs to be because you don't even know what kind of fish you're keeping." And he said, "Well, I don't know. I guess we got to figure that out." Okay, so let's talk about what we got going on here. We have a new fish keeper that doesn't know anything about keeping a fish tank, that's chasing a pH, and he doesn't even know what he's chasing it for. And Joe, I did end up telling you about my YouTube channel as the night went on, and you might be watching this. And if you are, I just want you to know, yes, I am intentionally being mean to you here because of what you did to me on the dartboard. And that's the thing, Lisa ended up playing him in singles cricket and he smoked her too. He smoked everybody that night, but then I got drawn to play him in doubles cricket and him and his partner torched us too. It was brutal. So Joe, you deserve this aquarium ass whooping that you're about to take. Of course, I'm kidding. Joe is a really good guy and he's a great dart player. Anyway, you might be watching this because like Joe, you were led to believe you need to chase a pH and get it absolutely perfect before you add fish to the tank. I'm going to give you a different way of looking at it. And of course, I like to give you common sense information, so listen to me, not whoever gave you this stupid advice to begin with. Hey, real quick, I wanted to tell you about the brand new Tank Talk podcast. This is a podcast I've had ever since 2014, but a little while ago, I decided to team up with Jason Adams from Primetime Aquatics to take this podcast to the next level. Every week, the professor and I take on a new aquarium topic and cover it in an in-depth and thorough way while adding fun and interesting stories from our decades in this hobby. This is a must-listen for any aquarium lover, and it's available in both video form here on YouTube or in audio form on all the podcasting platforms. I'll have links in the description to the audio version of the podcast as well as right here for the video version of it. Have a listen to it. Let us know what you think, and if you like it, subscribe, follow, like, do all of those things. It really does help us out. Thank you so much for letting me tell you about it. Now let's get back to the video. First things first, you need to make a decision on what fish you plan to keep before chasing a pH. Why? Well, because different fish like different pHs. If you're going to keep Lake Tanganyikan fish, you're going to want a pH way different than if you're keeping angelfish. I've always preached that the first decision you should make before even buying your first aquarium is what fish do you plan to keep. This way you can set up the tank to fit the fish and have the right environment, including the pH for them when it's time to bring them home. Otherwise, you're going to set up the tank, get everything running, and go back to the fish store later to buy the fish and tell the guy, "All right, I've got a 20-gallon, ammonia and nitrite are at 0, nitrates are at 5 parts per million, and my pH is holding steady at 7.6. And he's going to be like, Okay, well then you can choose between these 3 fish right here. And you're gonna be like, well, what about these fish over here? Nope, those need a bigger tank. Okay, well, how about these? No, your pH is too high for those. These? Nope. Those? Mm-mm. Well, a smart fish store employee or owner would tell you, I'm sorry, you should have decided what fish you wanted first. So here's the best advice I could ever give you if you want the easiest, most foolproof way to set up a tank. You decide you want a fish tank. Get a sample of your water, take it to the fish store you plan on buying everything from, and get them to test it for the pH. Don't worry about ammonia, nitrite, or nitrate yet. The guy says, all right, your pH is at 7, which means you're gonna have a ton of options for fish. You can choose from all of these fish over here. Now you look around and find that fish you connect with and say, all right, I want these. The employee comes over to you and says, okay, you like angelfish. They'll do perfect in your water. You're gonna wanna put them in at least a 55 gallon because that's what the bald guy on YouTube that thinks he knows everything says. Now you have all the information you need. You want angels. You know what sized aquarium you need, and you know you're not gonna have to chase a pH because they like it just the way it is. You're all set. Of course, you're still gonna need to make all the other decisions like what filter to use, lights, heaters, substrate, decorations, and tank mates, but at least now you have a starting point and you'll be setting yourself up for success. But maybe you're in Joe's situation and you already bought a 20 gallon and got it all set up. What should you do? Well, in my opinion, you really only have 2 options. First would be get fish that'll thrive in the pH you already have. Yes, that'll limit your options, but trust me, your life will be so much easier not chasing that pH around all the time. If your pH comes out of the tap at 7, consider yourself lucky and just pick fish that work well in that water. Angels won't be an option because your tank's too small, and you won't want to keep fish that like harder water with a high pH like some African cichlids or even guppies, but hey, you've still got tons of options, and you should be able to find something that makes you and everyone else in your family happy. My suggestion would be all the different tetras, barbs, rasboras, platies, all that stuff. You'll have tons of options. But now let's mix things up a little bit. I'm going to start a little bit of a controversy, and some of the old timers out there with their thumbs still up their asses are going to have a huge problem with what I'm about to say. But that's all right, because I can handle it. Here it is. With the exception of a few fish that are kind of more advanced that new fish keepers really wouldn't be interested in anyway, don't worry about chasing a pH all over the place. Huh? What? Everything I've read says that the pH has to be perfect before we get fish. Well, I'm about to blow your mind. Let's say you're strolling through the fish store on a Saturday afternoon before you go to Chipotle to eat a $20 burrito, and you see glow light tetras and you're like, oh. You see the bright colors and you're like, I've gotta have these. I'm gonna spend the next 6 months researching them and I'm gonna make the perfect home for them. You know your pH out of the tap is at around 7.3, but the first article you found says they like their water to be 5.5 to 7, and you're like, oh, fiddlesticks. I guess I gotta move on and find something else. But do you? The same article you read says glow light tetras originate from Guyana in South America. But is that where these fish come from? 99% of the time, the answer to that question is gonna be no. In fact, they most likely come from the complete opposite side of the world at a farm in Indonesia or Thailand. So what you really should be asking is, what's the water like at the farm? All right, John, this is getting ridiculous and you're confusing all of us. Calm down. Let's break this down. You're at the fish store looking at glow light tetras. These aren't wild caught fish. They're fish that were captive bred. The farms that bred the fish aren't bringing in water directly from some South American river. No, they're breeding them in whatever water they've got on their farm. So the question you really should be asking is, what's the pH at the farm? And the answer to that question almost 100% of the time is going to be, I don't know. Okay, unless they're bred by some local hobbyist or something like that. But let's stay on track here. Let's talk about where the bulk of these fish come from. And that's not all. They're bred and raised in a fish farm overseas. Then they're brought over to a distributor in the United States and put in completely different water. And trust me, these distributors are not going from tank to tank adjusting the pH in every single one. The fish come in and they go in whatever tank is available. That's just the way it is. Then they're shipped to your fish store where you're looking at them, which also has different water parameters. So the fish have been in 3 different types of water before they even got to you. I just want to know what my pH needs to be. Here's the best strategy. You want glow light tetras? The article said they like the pH to be 7 or lower, and your pH is 7.3. Rather than chasing the pH all over the place, which is going to cause all kinds of fluctuations, I just tell you to put them in the way it is. Wait, put these fish in a pH of 7.3, but that's not what the article says. I know, but trust me, they'll be fine, especially if you keep it at 7.3 consistently rather than constantly going up and down. Plus, you have no idea what the pH is at the farm, distributor, or the fish store. Trust me, your fish will appreciate a little bit of consistency. Now listen, I know there's going to be people in the comments that are going to say, but wait, I got some wild caught cichlids from Madagascar that would be miserable if they were put in a tank with a 7.3 pH. And you're right. But how do I say this lightly? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people like my friend Joe that just set up their first tank and they're all caught up in chasing their pH to be perfect when they don't even know what perfect is. If you're like Joe, stop chasing your pH. Get fish that'll work in the pH that you have that's right out of your tap, or at least close to what the profile says, and keep that pH consistent by keeping up with your maintenance, and I promise you'll be fine. And if you haven't bought your aquarium yet, make the decision of what fish you want first. That way you can set up the aquarium to accommodate them. The size, the water parameters, the heat requirements, all of that, you can have it set up right the first time. It'll be so much easier and you will deal with far less heartbreak, I promise. I hope all of that makes sense, and I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do us the favor of clicking that like button and subscribe and do all the YouTube things with the notifications and all that nonsense. You can also help out the channel by checking out our website, keepfishkeeping.com. We have everything on there that you could ever need to start up an aquarium successfully, including live snails and live plants. So you really can't go wrong. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you again on the next one. See ya. Don't forget the Tank Talk podcast.